Sathyabama Institute of Science and Technology.
A very good day, everyone. Myself, Preetha Wilma Dawson, Assistant Professor, College of Physiotherapy, Sathyabama Institute of Science and Technology, deemed to be a university. In today's lecture, we are going to briefly learn about pupillary reflexes. Pupillary reflexes are also called as visceral reflexes. This reflex helps in the alteration of the size of the pupil. In general, pupillary reflexes can be classified into three types. The first one is light reflex, ciliospinal reflex, and the last one is accommodation reflex. First, we'll start with light reflex. This light reflex, the stimulus is given in the form of torchlight which is flashed into the eye. The response which we get is the constriction of the pupil. So, let us consider when a torchlight is flashed into an eye, the response which we get is the constriction of the pupil. So, in this image, you can see the pupil is constricted. And here we have a video about light reflex. Consider the torchlight is flashed into the eye. So, there is a constriction of the pupil. So, when there is a dark light, the pupil tends to get dilated. So, first we'll discuss about direct light reflex. This direct light reflex is also known as direct papillary light reflex or direct reaction to light. So, in this reflex, when the light is shined on one eye, we'll get the response in the same eye. So, this is called as direct light reflex. Next, we'll discuss about indirect light reflex. In indirect light reflex, when I am going to shine the torch on the right eye, the response will be elicited in the opposite eye. So, even no light is falling on the other eye, the response is elicited on the opposite eye. So, this is called as indirect light reflex. Indirect light reflex is also known as consensual light reflex. So, next we'll start with ciliospinal reflex. This ciliospinal reflex, the stimulus is given in the form of painful stimuli over the skin of the neck. So, the response elicited is the dilatation of the pupil. This reflex occurs as a result of contraction of the dilator papillae muscle. So, next comes the last reflex, that is the accommodation reflex. This accommodation reflex is the adjustment to see and focus either the distant or near objects clearly. It is the process in which the light rays from near or distance are falling into the focus of retina. This process is accomplished by various adjustment of the bulbous oculi, that is the eyeball. In accommodation reflex, we have two types. One is negative accommodation and the other one is positive accommodation. So first, let's start about negative accommodation. When an individual is focusing the object in far, the ciliary muscles are relaxed, the ligaments are tightened and the lens are stretched out to be flattened. So, this maximizes the ability of an individual to focus or to see the objects in distance. So, next, let's talk about positive accommodation. When an individual is focusing an object in a near distance, the ciliary muscles become tightened and the ligaments are relaxed. The lens become relaxed and become more rounded form. This maximizes the ability of an individual to see the object in near distance. We have a picture representation here. You can see the ligaments are tightened so that the lens tend to become stretched out to become more flattened. So you can see here the ligaments are tightened. This stretches out the lens to become more flattened. And in this case, the ligaments are in relaxed state. This allows for the lens to become more rounded. Now you can see here when the focus of point is in far, so the lens become more flattened, that is stretched out. When the focus of point is in the near place, the lens become more rounded. Now let's have a quick recap of today's session. First, we discussed about what is pupillary reflexes. So, pupillary reflexes are called as visceral reflexes. So, this alters the size of the pupil. So, it consists of three types of reflexes. First one is light reflex and the second one is ciliospinal reflex and the third one is accommodation reflex. In light reflex, it consists of two types. First one is direct light reflex and the second one is indirect light reflex. Under accommodation, there were two accommodation reflexes. First one was negative accommodation and the second one was positive accommodation. And yes, we have come to the end of today's session. Thank you.